Good evening, everyone. Welcome to UpStart Live. Today's topic is on using technology to revolutionize industries. So, I'm Manasa. I'm your host for the evening. I'm a part of the marketing team at PayU. So, PayU, as you all know, is one of the leading payment service providers. We are across sectors like airlines, SMBs, and of course, the startup community. Upstart is one of the series that we run as a property of PayU. So at Upstart, we bring in subject matter experts like Vijender and Manas here to talk about various topics, right? Could be anything that a startup requires or just general information. So as I told you, today's topic is using technology to revolutionize industries. We have two speakers with us, Vijender Reddy and Manas Hota. So they are the founders. Vijay is the CEO and co-founder at DrinkPrime, while Manas is the COO and co-founder at DrinkPrime. We are going to be talking about how using technology we can revolutionize industries. So they come from a background of DrinkPrime, and I leave it up to them to talk more about what is their background and what DrinkPrime does. So, Vijay and Manas, over to you guys. Thank you so much for being here with us today. This has been an absolute pleasure organizing this and getting you all here. So, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mansa. It's glad to be here. Yeah.
Thank you, Manasa. Thank you for having us here.
Yeah.
It's great to be here.
Let me kind of give you a background about myself. So I am a computer science engineer. I did my master's from Indian Institute of Science. So I'm a computer science researcher where I did a couple of work on that side, right? So I come with more of a hardware and a software kind of background. And then later I was working for AMD company, AMD processors, where I was working in the core team building the next generation AMD processors, right? So I come from more of a tech and a product background.
Yep. So I compliment Vijay in that sense, where I come from more of a business background. I did my BTech and then I went on to do my MBA. Post which I did a couple of stints in a few established companies, starting with Thomas Cook. Then when I got a flavor of a little bit of operations and people management, I sort of doubled down on that and had a stint in Sonata Software. That was for about 3.5 years, where I used to head their entire demand gen piece, wherein I got a flavor of people management, sales, and a little bit of marketing experience as well. And getting all of these sporadic experiences here and there made me hungry for more, and that's when I met Vijay, and we sort of started on the journey of DrinkPrime as we know today. Yeah, so Vijay will be able to tell more about the interesting founding story that we have there.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a pretty long story, I would say. I mean, it's been like 7 years where we are up to building DrinkPrime. So we have all started in 2014 with our personal pain point of, I mean, we not from Bangalore. I'm from Hyderabad. Manas is from Orissa. So we came here, like most of us, to start our careers here. And then as we were living in sharing rooms together and all, right, we were actually ordering the bottled water, right, the 20-liter can, and that's where the whole horizon of DrinkPrime came, right, where we saw that the water which was given to us was not up to the mark, and we started trying to solve that as a personal problem, and that's how it started off the whole journey, DrinkPrime journey. Yeah.
I think that's commendable because I have faced that. Whatever you're saying, right? Like when I started my career and I went on to Bangalore, this was the thing. So we would not be able to afford a purifier, right? And especially when you're starting off, you cannot afford it. So the 20 rupees bottles that the Anna in the shop brought in is what we had to use. And if it's clean or not, then it's up to you. You warm it up again, you boil it, you put it in your kettle. That's a longer process. But yes, thank you so much for solving that one big pain point, because a lot of people tend, like, you cannot say people should not be drinking water, right? Like you cannot sort of limit it to restrict a person to drinking only 1 liter. It depends on them alone. So yes, that definitely is something that I think what you're doing is definitely great. So I have a few questions for you, right? So I wanted to understand from you. You have already spoken about what led to the founding of DrinkPrime. Can you sort of speak a little more on that? I think we just spoke in very short as to what led to this. Can you throw some more light on it? Help us understand how it all came about to being. How did you find each other as co-founders and everything?
Sure. So Manasa, just to take your example, right? We were new into the city. Vijender and I both were roommates at that point in time, and we both of us were using bottled water. Now there were a number of problems associated with bottled water. We didn't know a lot about the market size or things beyond our control at that point in time, but just from what we just from what we saw, right? Most of our friends of our age were using bottled water. Now, a few problems with bottled water. You reach home late from office, let's say at 9 or 10 o'clock, the Anna shop is closed. Now, whom do you call? How do you manage the night without the basic necessities of just bottled water? And let's say you stay in a third floor apartment, and most apartments which bachelors can afford in Bangalore do not come with lifts. Now, the Anna will say, I will only bring it to the ground floor. Now, who is responsible for lugging the can all the way up 3 floors? Then there's a Saturday evening party going on. You have a couple of friends over. Then the water slowly starts coming down. A couple of more guys come, and then you get water at round about midnight.
Yeah.
What do you do then? So these are some of the problems that both of us were facing, and both of us being enthusiastic problem solvers, right? We look at the problem from two angles. I look at it more from a angle of the business side of things, and Vijay looks at what can be possible technologically. This is the problem that both of us were facing, and we said that, hey, let's put our brains together and try to do something. The idea was never to start a company, but to solve a problem that we were facing and friends around us were facing.
Yeah, and when we started in the early days, right, we really didn't even realize that we have to set up a company, right? So our knowledge was start to the mark that we were thinking that maybe write an app, just publish in Play Store, and that's how things will work, right? So we were to that point of extent where we were so much focused on the problem, and as a first solution to the problem, right? The access of bottled water, what we did is, way back in 2015, we started a platform called Waterwala. So the name suggests, as the name suggests, right? Waterwala, someone who comes and delivers Waterwala, right? So it was an Android and an iOS app where customers can order these 20-liter cans, and then we had verified vendors in that network. In that area who used to come and deliver the cans, right? So it was as simple as a very small e-commerce kind of a two-screen app. And that's how, and we never even thought that it's a startup or it's anything, right? It was more like a hobby project to us, right? And way back then we didn't even leave our jobs. This was all in the evenings or even in the weekends, right? When we were doing, and when we have a lot of time, right? We just did it and do it, and we published it. Actually, to be frank, we never realized that there are so many people who are actually using bottled water, right? Just in 6 months, we had close to 15,000 customer base in small sub areas of Bangalore, right? Like 4 sub areas of Bangalore. And people were close to ordering 2,000 cans per day in our platform. And that was like the biggest shocker for us. Like, you never realized that it is a problem, right? And that's when actually Manas and me kind of decided that maybe we need to take it more seriously. It's not just a hobby anymore. There's so many people who are reliant, and that's where I think we got into deeper, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So as we started solving the problem, right? As with any first-time founder in the early days of entrepreneurship, right? There were more bad days than there were good days. But just the fact that you're solving the problem kept us going through the bad days. A lot of things, right? Vijay once delivered a flyer to his boss standing at a road corner, even when continuing in his job. So yeah, and he came from a respected institute, right? Possibly the best institute in India. And he was working in one of the foremost technology companies, AMD, and that too in their prestigious compilers division, right? So yeah, number of stories that we can share on the early days as such. But as we were continuing this business, right, what we observed is that, the cost of transporting water from place to place, right? And more than the cost, the hassle of transporting water from place to place. And the fact that the product in question is a 22 kg product, and there are physical limitations to what kind of workforce can you get to perform the operations. And also the fact that even if we do a sprinted job 99% of the time, we would still end up with a dissatisfied customer because it's drinking water. Some of these things led us back to the drawing board, and we started thinking about how can we solve the problem. Hey, so wonderful job, we have identified the problem. Now, how can we start about solving the problem in a scalable way? how can we start about solving the problem in a way that is a lot more efficient than the approach that we have taken initially. And that sort of led us to pivot away into DrinkPrime, which we will do.
Yeah. So it all started with a single thesis that why should I move water from one place to other when water is available everywhere? Why can't I purify the water at the customer place and give? And that's what was I think the whole 2 years journey which we had in DrinkPrime, right? So that was the whole point which we have learned after spending 2 years saying that the right solution for this product is purifying the water at the customer place and giving it to them, right? So that's where the whole the origin of DrinkPrime came. And as we were digging deeper into DrinkPrime, and we realized that water purifiers have been very old industry, right? It's been there from last 30 years. So many models around, so many companies around, right? But the fact of the matter is the water purifier penetration in India is less than 10%, right? So if you see a TV penetration in India is 77%, but whereas a water purifier penetration in India is 10%, less than 10%, right? So that's when it started make us thinking about it, right? Why is that so, right? After 30 years, why is it less than 10%, right? The major thing which came up to our point is it was not affordable. The water purifiers was not affordable, and that's where I think Manasa, you also did not buy it or me because
same reason, same, right? Like I was starting, I had a TV, but again, all said and done, I had a TV though because I could afford it. It was on an offer. No one sells purifiers on offer, right? So I couldn't afford it. I'd rather pay that guy, like you said, I would give him extra just to climb up one flight of stairs, because obviously no lift there, and then I would rather do that than go for a water purifier because I couldn't afford it. Plain.
Yeah, and also, Mansa, one more thing, right? Now that you can afford and possibly own a water purifier, what you have observed, possibly,
I
let's say,
still don't have one.
okay, so maybe a good time for you to switch to DrinkPrime, but we'll come to that in a
Absolutely.
while.
Yes. Yes.
So most of the folks who have bought even a water purifier, right, which is available at an offer or discount or whatever, will observe that unlike the TV or a fridge, right, wherein the amount that you pay upfront is the cost of the output that you get. A water purifier is very
Yes.
different. People pay between 35 to 50% of the device cost each year on maintaining the water purifier.
Yes.
When it translates on a per month basis, they, apart from the hefty upfront investment, right, they spend anywhere between 300 to 500 rupees each month, amortized, of course, so to maintain the water purifier. That sort of brings totally different what we call as a total cost of ownership of a water purifier versus any other household appliance that we have. So yes.
So it led actually to do a product innovation, right? So the whole idea where we wanted to do is, can I give a water purifier at the cost of a water can? So that was the whole idea, and that was the question in front of us, right? How do we solve that, right? That's when I would say, we have figured it out a way where IoT is the solution, right? Like enabling IoT inside the water purifier can enable pay-per-use kind of a model, right? So once the whole IoT infrastructure is set up and installed in a water purifier, we can charge customers on number of liters they consume out of the water purifier, right? So the whole IoT piece evolved a new model, which is a subscription model, which we have done, right? So that's when I would say, if someone asks us, right, we are not a water purifier company, but we'll say we are a technology company, which is using technology to enable a traditional business, right? So
I think you just changed the game completely for something like this. So given if we would go back 5 or 6 or 7 years in your case, that if somebody were to offer you something like this, you would definitely go for this instead of that 20-liter can from that nearby shop, Anna, no? So you would not have to worry about a weekend coming in, or you would not have to worry about coming late and not getting water. I've had that situation happen, and that is not the right place to be, right? That's the worst. So this definitely covers that, and I think that is beautiful that you have come up with something like this. Now, if I may ask you the next question, because I will want us to cover about the technology bit of it as well. So tell me, how did you integrate the smart solutions into a 30-year-old history? So like you said, it's a 30-year-old business. So water purifiers have been there forever, but then there still isn't something like something of a smart twist to this. So how did that come about to be?
Yeah. So Mansa, we kind of come up with a very modern age thought process, right? So I mean, we don't have the 30-year baggage of someone in the veteran in the industry, right? I mean, who knows about water purifier. So we are a software engineers trying to do something in a water purifier, right? So what happens is we have seen across multiple industries, multiple places where, to take an example, the whole hospitality industry is completely disrupted with technology like Airbnb or OYOs of the world. And then there is this transportation, which is a very pretty old industry, cabs and all, right? It is completely disrupted by Uber and Olas of the world, right? So we come with that modern thought process where a technology will help you to kind of see the business in a completely different way. So in the sense, like whatever the limitations which were there in the traditional businesses, right? I mean, to just double click on it, right? So the traditional businesses always did the business via a dealer and distributor model, right? So it is like they will sell to the Chroma sells to the customers and everything, right? So, but the technology here, like Facebook and all YouTube and everything, right? So it helps us to connect to the customer directly, and that's how technology helped us to be a direct to consumer product itself, right? So we are a completely direct to consumer product, and this is how I would say the technology changed the way we look at the industry.
Yep, and just because technology has enabled us to charge the customer for the output, right? Which is safe drinking water, which is anyway what the customer has always wanted in the first place. So we have simplified the product offering a lot. Let's say you go to any other brand, they would have 10 to 15 models of the same product. When the promise that is delivered to the customer is that I will deliver you safe drinking water as the output of the product. If you have 5 different models at 5 different price points, you're not really trying to say that the lowest one will give you semi-pure water while the highest one will give you a little more pure water, right? So we have innovated on those fronts as well, and because of the fact that we charge the customer again for the amount of water that they consume, we have taken a lot of steps to simplify the service cycle itself, to make the product a lot more simpler to service, to make the product a lot more simpler to because it is in our best interest to keep the product simple. And also the beauty about our business model, which is subscription, is that the power is 100% in the hands of the consumer, not before he has bought the product, but throughout the entire life cycle. Let's say we fail to deliver on our promise at any given point in time. The customer has the power to unsubscribe because there are zero sunk costs here. Unlike a traditional water purifier manufacturer, people would still keep on, they would complain, but they would be forced to use a product which they don't like or the service has deteriorated simply because they have invested in it earlier. We don't have any of these baggages, and hence we are able to deliver a much more superior solution to the customer and solve their critical pain point.
Absolutely. So, okay, this could be very general, but I am asking in terms of the water purifier industry, but I'd also want you to cover a little bit of general information around this, right? Given that you were new to it, like you said, it was your problem, you wanted to solve it, that's why you came up with this. So how did you get people to trust you in the first place? So how was it? Obviously it was not easy, but how did that come about to be? And I'd also want you both to cover as to how another company, maybe somebody who's just starting, right? Like they have found a problem, like you found a problem a few years ago. How would they have to come about with this? So while you talk about DrinkPrime as an example, please also share a little more information otherwise.
Sure. Trust, right? I mean, when it comes to our category or our line of business, which is the promise to deliver safe drinking water, this category is very much trust driven. I mean, the reason why incumbents have been there from so many years, and the fact that almost all incumbents have large brand ambassadors backing their brand up, is simply to establish the fact that they want to have that sense of trust with the user. We did not have any of it, and obviously with limited resources, right? So the way that we establish trust is very simple. We went the technology route. I mean, don't trust us because we have this fancy brand ambassador which may or may not use the product. Like obviously, some of those fair and lovely ads, the brand ambassadors may not use the product, right? So we don't want to go that route, but rather we want to open it up with data and possibly explain to the users that, hey, this is the quality of your drinking water, this is the quality of your input water, and because we have the data and you have the data, and you can look at some of these things on your app and and we are able to, we are able to be upfront with our offering with you, and we are able to show a transparency with you. That sort of led us to initially establish trust.
Yeah, to just add another point to that, so here in the whole space, right, and also I'm talking about a general any business, right? So brand plays a major role in the whole trust aspect, right? So, and when I understand what do you mean by a brand, right? So brand means an experience, right? So as an end company, what we started doing it is before even getting into what is a business model, what is the revenue which I'm going to collect from the customer and all, right? So we started saying that, can I give this product to my customer and ask him to experience it? I mean, so that's where successfully we have started something called a 7 days risk-free trial. So what that trial means is you just kind of get the water purifier installed at your home, use it for 7 days. I mean, drink water. I mean, just try it out, everything. If you really don't like any of the things, right, you can completely give it back, right? I mean, it's completely refundable, and we don't charge you anything, right? So that was one of a very big steps in our initial days where we had to take, because we wanted to build the trust by making customers use our product, right? So I would say definitely for any startup who's trying to do, they have to first make the MVP, which is the minimum viable product, and then start giving the product to people, right? Maybe the beta users, maybe everyone, right? That's where I would say the whole trust factor kicks in, and then people start realizing and people start referring, right? I mean, these early adopters are very, very beautiful people where they just kind of want to spread to everyone, right? Saying that I use this product, it's so beautiful, why don't you use it, right? So come to the point, make something which is minimum viable product, give it to the early adopters, and then you see how the whole game changes, right? That's how we were able to crack trust, and that's where also we, from our experience, we can recommend new startups, new companies to, I mean, take this route, make the product get experience first.
I think that's the right way to go about it, Vijay. Thank you for covering that piece as well. So again, coming back to a general sort of understanding, right? Founding a startup and running it is a challenge. Everybody knows it. So what were the challenges that you faced? You did talk about the traffic signal, giving a flyer to your own boss. Please cover that as well. So talk about what all you did, right? Like what we all know, it's understood. That is why a lot of the people out there feel scared to take that first step, even though they have good ideas and everything. It's that fear that stops them. So please cover that bit of it, so that somebody who wishes to start up may take some cues from your journeys, both of your journeys, and then start up on their own.
Yeah, so Mansa, so I think the first thing, which is the core ingredient of any startup or something, right, is the madness. I mean, at least when you're doing something, right, there should be at least 100 people who will be saying that, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? If that is not happening, then actually I would say you are playing little safe. So, and then being a startup founder, you cannot play safe, right? It is, as many of the people said, right? I mean, startup journey is something where you jump from the, flight, and before you fall down onto the earth, make the rocket and go up. So it is as simple as that, right? So even when we started DrinkPrime, right, and also if you see, we are not a software company to say that, okay, I mean, I have made a product, now let me go all the ways and it's the same product giving to everyone, right? We are coming up with a hardware product, and that to a sensitive market, which is drinking water, right? So that were one of the major challenges which we had, because we spent technically 2 years to nail down the product, right? So because hardware is something where you cannot change things on the fly. Like, for example, if there is a series of steps in a hardware company, if the fourth step fail, you just again have to come back to first step. It's not that I can do something in the fourth step and go to the fifth step, right? So that's where the whole cycle of product development in a hardware is kind of 3 to 4x. 3 to 4x the time which it takes deploying a software company, right? And the other thing is the finances would need, because hardware is something real world. I mean, there is something moving, there's something here and there, right? So that is getting the financing done and figuring out capital for that is also one of the major things, I would say, at least we faced in this things, right? So this is how startup journey, it was critical, and as we grow there were so many other things which maybe Manas can add upon.
Yeah, so just to add on to that, right? I mean, hardware is hard. Everybody knows. Starting the startup is hard. Everybody knows. So especially when you're starting something in hardware, it is onto the founders to keep the offering extremely simple as possible, and nail down the MVP. I mean, I can still list down pages and pages of how our product can be improved and sort of how those bells and whistles can come in even today, even after we have a large team and possibly larger resources, right? But still we focus on the core value proposition that we deliver to our users. We try every day to perfect that value proposition. Let's say you want the technician to arrive on time. I want the technician to arrive at your home on time at least 99 out of 100 times. Let's say you want the purifier to perform the right actions. I want the purifier to perform the right actions possibly 99.9% out of 100 attempts that you would do. So just nailing, just keeping things simple and doing, I mean, not trying to do a lot of things, but trying to, doing the best with the limited resources that you have on one or two things that you want to excel at, that sort of comes in. So that's what you call the product market fit, right? Or the MVP. Once you find that, you just have to keep on doing it and perfecting action till the time you are the best in the entire category, in the entire world who does it.
Yeah. And next question comes is, how do you find your customer? That is one of the biggest question where should I go offline? Should I go online? Should I go partnership way? What is the right way, right? So that's where I would say the early adopters of the company, right? I mean, the MVP people who kind of use your MVP, your friends and family, right? They give you a complete clarity that where are these kind of people available. So that kind of a thing which is very important, because these early people are the signs of our product kind of going, right. So that's when we realize that most of it, these kind of people were in digital fronts, right, and that's where we started doing our digital campaigns, started targeting them, and started getting the customers, right. So after the MVP is done, how do we scale this up, right? So that's how we were able to scale this up, and that's how the whole journey kind of took it forward. Now, currently, we are present in 3 cities. Bangalore is our major city. Hyderabad, we are present. NCR, all the complete belt, all the 5 cities we are present in NCR, right? And we are scaling up rapidly.
I think that's a major accomplishment, all said and done. Like you said, where you are working is one of the most sensitive areas to be a part of. So no one will go, even I knew that when we started out that the cans that I was taking I don't know where they are coming from. All said and done, but I needed water. So I'd rather take again the process of warming it up for my own, comfort, like to feel better about it, rather than going any other way, right? So that's definitely a challenge, and I think you people have been able to come through and get through that perfectly well, and I hope it just goes better for you than what you have had before also. So that's something that definitely is great to hear. Again, this is a little technical. So there have been conversations about the usage of RO around in areas where the TDS level of the water is below a certain level, I think 500. So is that a challenge? So all said and done, anything that comes up around water purifiers becomes a challenge for you guys to solve, right? Like, that's a conversation that you have to have internally. So is that a challenge? About that TDS being below 500, the water purifiers around the usage of that?
So let me take this up. So since I have built the product, and I would can add more light on the TDS side of it, right? So basically, one of the major problems in the technology, the RO technology, is it wastes, right, a lot of water, right? So on an average, for 2 liters to get a 1 liter of input water, right? I mean, the purified water, technically 1.5 to 2 liter water gets wasted. So that's the one of the reason where if you see government or NGT or all these people are kind of little skeptical about using an RO when the TDS is less than 500, right? So we have realized this point, and then we saw that this is going to stay, right? Because at the end of the day, it is affecting the environment, right? So if I start putting RO everywhere, and then that's where the whole idea, I mean, the whole water wastage will increase. So how we kind of cracked this problem is basically, then we went back to the drawing table again. Drawing table is always has to be done. So when though your product is live in the market, there should be a separate team who will be working on what next, right? So as from our learnings from the existing product, we realized that each of the areas, right, where if you see, I'll just let me give you an example of Bangalore itself, right? Bangalore technically has three water sources. One is the municipality water where BBMP provides, right? And also the second source of water is the borewell water. People use borewell water. And the third source where remote areas is the tanker water, right? So what happens is any area in Bangalore has a combination of all the three water, right? So it is not just a single source of water coming into that area. Sometimes if municipality water doesn't come, people switch to borewell or they order tanker, right? So what was happening is, though NJT has given a proper guidance that anything less than 500 we should not use RO, but we really had a problem in that, right? Because the point is, since the water quality keeps on varying every season, right? Every season or every month, how do you achieve it, right? So to kind of nail it down, what we started is we started actually customizing the water purifier. So every water purifier which DrinkPrime is shipping currently is a personalized water purifier for you. So what I mean by personalized is we exactly know what is your water quality in your area. We know exactly 20 parameters of your water. Like we know what is your chlorine levels. We know what is your bacteria levels. We collect continuous data again with the help of IoT and technology, right? So we collect this data and then we customize and personalize the water purifier for you, right? It's not just about installation also. While we are coming up to a service also, if suddenly the TDS drops to less than 500, we disable RO and suddenly if your TDS goes above 500, we enable RO, right? So our customizations are to that level. So and this can only be possible with the help of technology, right? So that's how we cracked that piece.
Yeah.
Manas, anything to add for
Yeah,
that?
yeah. So to sort of give you a different perspective, right? So, I mean, because we are a technology-first company and we are not an RO water purifier manufacturer in the traditional sense, right? We are instead of simply anticipating and being ready for whatever regulations come, we want to be at the forefront and possibly drive the discussion forward, or possibly sort of lead the change in a way, right? And we don't have decades of legacy, or we don't have decades of big factories or any of the other things that traditional manufacturers would have. And more importantly, we are not an appliance company as such. We don't go to the market with 20 models at different price points. We go to the market with a simple promise that if you use a product, you will get safe drinking water at the end of the day. Now, water purifier, like any other, unlike any other piece of equipment, right? Depends on your input metrics also. Like your TV is your TV. Whether it is in Kashmir or it's in Kanyakumari, if you have enough voltage, it will function fine. Water, in addition to the electricity thing, would also depend on your quality of input water. And because we understand the quality of the input water, because we have a detailed area-wise water quality map and analysis, we are possibly the best place in the industry to possibly see what purification method is suitable for which kind of thing. And RO and non-RO is a very basic thing. Let's say a couple of steps beyond that, right? Let's say particular area has possibly higher biological impurities, or a particular area has maybe more heavy metals. So all of these things would require slight changes to the modification, to the filtration process and customization in the purification method itself. And because we understand all of this, and we are possibly the first one in the industry to have taken steps towards customizing the purification process depending on a customer's input water quality needs. Also, one more point: the beauty of our model is that we are not present across possibly, let's say, 1,000 pin codes across India. We are just focused on 2-3 major cities or few areas where we are. But the beauty of our model is the areas in which we operate in, we possibly have the highest customer density. So that gives us access to more and more amount of data. All of our service network is in-house. All of our technicians carry water quality measuring devices. We do frequent water quality tests on the fly. And because we are only focused on a particular small geography and we have the highest density of customers in that geography, all of that leads to the flywheel that lets us to be in the best position to predict what is the water quality going to be and have customized purification processes to be able to cater to that.
And this can only be actually enabled, this customization can only be enabled when you are a direct to consumer product, right? So if there is a traditional dealer to distributor model, what will happen is the company doesn't know what is a customer problem, right? So that is the magic of our model, where since we are B2C consumer company, we know exactly what is happening in his home. What is his, how is he using a water purifier? How much water is he consuming? And what is the quality of water, whether is he using water for only drinking or cooking, how many people are there in the family, what else they need from the water purifier, right? So these all the things we are able to extract from the customer, since we are a direct to consumer product, right? So that's also one of the advantages currently we have.
Absolutely. I think that's really nice to hear from both sides as to how this exactly works. So, again, very interesting name, right, for your startup. So, how did you come up with it? And I know that you said that there was Waterwala to begin with. So, how has the brand evolved from then to now, and the name as well?
Right. So it is a little funny story. I mean, I don't know whether but let me share, because most of the people around are similar like us, right? So coming from my interests, I would say I'm like a little bit of a movie buff, right? So yeah, I kind of watch movies and all, right? So I have always have someone kind of inspired by characters, right? Like maybe Superman or Batman or something, right? These are the characters where kind of played a major role in the whole this thing, right? So in the same way, what we have done is we will actually, if you see, there is a beautiful series called Transformers, right?
Optimus Prime, yes. Yes, now
So
I
it was
understand.
the origin where basically, if you see the character of an Optimus Prime, he just the character of the Prime is, he doesn't want to get into anyone's life. He just wants to be subtle in the background and try to solve the biggest problem with the mankind was facing. Right? I mean, he's a superhero who is not in front of you and always fighting in the background, right? So that's what was the whole inspiration to say that it became DrinkPrime. I don't know whether it was funny, but that's how it took, right? And after that, we realized that it was a good thing about the name is it is actually a call to action. Right?
Yes,
DrinkPrime is something
exactly.
which is also a call to action, asking everyone to drink prime water.
Prime.
Right? So,
Yes.
so that's what it happened the way, and we were so lucky in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so very nicely put, right? Unlike many other brands, right, which typically want to go the route of fear with the customer. Wherein you will, there is a trusted authority, or there is some other regulation, or there is something else because of which if you are worried about your family's health, or if you are, the fear factor plays a major role in building brands on some of these sectors. We want to take the other way around, wherein we want to give customers all the knowledge, about a product, be very open and transparent about the technology we use. And that sort of also leads a little bit into the brand name, and not only the name, but all of the actions that we do.
Absolutely. So, how has it evolved over the years, right? From when you were just researching as to what to do, given hardware and everything. So, how has the brand overall evolved? So, if somebody were to take cues from this, if somebody out there is listening to us and he or she, they are starting their business, so how would or their startup, how would they need to go about with this? How does a brand evolve?
So a brand is nothing but a promise that a company delivers, states to its users. And the best way for any young company to stand on that, to build a brand, is to stand on that promise. Like we say that we are responsible for giving our customers, to make sure our users drink prime or drink prime water. So that's all there is, right? So till the time we are able to keep that benchmark high, till the time we are able to hit that promise, and make life simple for the users, that in itself creates a brand. And if there are enough early adopters, and if we sort of engage with them enough, if we interact with them, I mean, one of the biggest levers, since you mentioned about someone just starting up, any large company cannot pay individual attentions to the users. So let's say a large company has possibly 100 users to go with, right? You don't need to cater as a startup to all of the 100 users. You just identify the 10 users who you think are your early adopters. 5 of them would actually become your customers. You just need to give them out-of-world experience, mind-blowing experience. Those 5 will tell to another 5, and then that's how the brand grows. You don't need to figure out that, hey, they are going behind 100. How do we go behind 100? Well, that can be at the back of your thought process. Initial, immediate action has to be, these are the 5 users. How can I give them a 10x superior experience than what the other brand is providing?
Yeah, and also in the brand evolution, right? One of the major things is, as a company, we should keep our ears open, right? I mean, there are so many things which the current customers will come and tell us, right? I mean, they will be like a pearls for the business, right? So the whole, they kind of tell you what is the direction to take as a company, as a brand, right? And as we get more and more customers, right, what we see that DrinkPrime itself become a character of itself, right? I mean, it is not a character of me or Manas. It is a character of himself, like maybe like Optimus Prime, right? So it becomes a character. The promise which the character makes, the tone which the character speaks, and is it a male or is it a female? Is it a subtle? Is it a fear? Everything, right? Once you start learning and listening to your customers, right? That's when you will be able to bring what is the customer wanting to hear. See, can our brand be their buddy? I mean, can then the customer who is our customer, right? Can our brand be the person whom he can trust, right? So that's where, after the product evolution, things all keep changing. The whole design aspect, the whole functionality aspect, the whole operations aspect, the whole UX aspect, right? Kind of keep. And this is how it happens. In the next phase will come as, how do I make sure people know us more? And that's when the whole marketing, the whole branding, ATL, PTL, and everything kind of comes in marketing channels, right? To tell out our story. Yeah, so that's where that's how we see that brands will start from product and slowly evolve, and that's how it goes to the mass market.
Absolutely. So again, yours is a hardware startup. Like you said, it's not a software that you can sort of roll it out to people and see how it works and then take it back and then fix it again. So there's a lot more involved when it comes to a hardware startup as opposed to a software, right? So what are the challenges that are faced by a hardware startup using the latest technology? How does that?
I mean, with hardware, right? Hardware is hard. Everybody knows that, like we discussed also. You have to be a lot more hands-on. You cannot be detached from your customers. I'll give you a simple example, right? Even as early as possibly 2 years back or maybe 2.5 years back, we were facing bugs in a particular type of firmware and a particular version of our app. Now, this app or this particular phone was not used by a lot of folks. Maybe a handful of our customers were using it. Hence, we are finding it very difficult to replicate. We tried all of the software to replicate the bug. We are finding it very difficult. Now, somebody has to solve the problem. Vijay went to that customer's home, called up that customer, went to that customer's home, started at possibly 7 a.m., came out of the home at 7 p.m., had breakfast, lunch at that customer's home. The customer was extremely cooperative and stuff, right? So getting hands-on, getting your hands dirty, possibly being as close to the customers and possibly going ahead, that would possibly be the way that a hardware startup can evolve.
And one thing about hardware, important thing about hardware startup is, if you build a software kind of a product, right, you can easily replicate that product to like 10,000 or 1 lakh or 1 million customers, right? But hardware is something that every product is its own. It's new thing, right? I mean, it has to go via a process. It has to maintain all the KPIs, all the checkpoints, and then only it can come out, right? Anything in this whole journey will kind of come to this thing. This cycle of, again, as I mentioned earlier, the cycle times of building hardware companies is, I would say, 3 to 4x the time than a software company, right? And now in this COVID scenario, I mean, one of the major problems that the whole world is facing is you are not getting the hardware components. I mean, because of COVID, I mean, there are lead times increasing. There are components when we order, it takes 52 weeks to deliver the product. It technically like stays one year, one
Yes.
year to order the component and wait, right? So, and the money is locked for that amount and everything, right? And the thing is, once it fails in the field, you are kind of, I mean, it's a big burn. You have to get it back, fix it, and then there's someone going to the place and then things come back, right? So, in the whole journey, hardware companies are, I would say, a little difficult than software. That's where if you see number of companies in hardware in India or any of the world are very less when compared to software, right? That's where that's one of the piece I would say is important. Coming to the startup ecosystem, right? In the startup ecosystem also there are VCs, lot of VCs investors in the whole thing, right? Most of the investors don't support hardware companies. The reason being is again as an investment policy, everyone has saying that "Okay, I want returns in some perspective of time, right? But hardware companies are always a long-term game. It is never about the short-term game where I do something now. See, for example, electric vehicles. I mean, they've been getting built from last 8 years, though the buzz is happening currently. But if you see the time they started building it, right, it's kind of technically 8 years, and you see not even 1% penetration in India. So VCs, long-term VCs help also is much more needed. The patience is needed. Good part about hardware startups is they don't die easily because you have built something real world where it is not that "Okay, I started today and tomorrow I'm shutting it down." How much time it took to build the company? If you don't care also, it is not a point of time, it will die anytime. Right?
Yeah.
That's the magic of hardware company. It's a good part about hardware company.
Absolutely. Manas, anything to add before we go on to my next question?
Just to sort of add on to Vijay's point, right? I mean, if let us say you were to decide between your fastest way to go from your home to office, if one app doesn't give you the right, it's very easy for you to switch to a different app.
Yes.
We have seen our customers, I mean, our product like us has a very high stickiness factor. It's because it was hard to build, it is hard to install, and for the user also the switching costs are high. Those things work to our advantage. Having said that, there is also a big trust factor that the user has placed in us. Trusting us with with the safety or the health of their family is a big trust, and we don't take that responsibility lightly. In fact, just to give you another slightly unrelated example, right? We were possibly the only company in both the lockdowns in Bangalore who were providing services to our
I
customers.
was just
Right?
about to ask that question. That was coming up in the next 2 to 3 questions. That
Yeah.
how did it work? Maybe Manas, we will cover that there. I would really like to know a little more because I think that was that is the thing that majorly affected every one of us, right? Doesn't matter at what age we are. Everybody was affected by what happened and what is still continuing. So we will cover that a little later. But anything else to add on this?
No, I'm done.
Yeah, sure. So one more question before we go on to my other question, which I just told you about. Uh, the use of technology is right, like it's very different from B2B, B2C, and or D2C. So how is it different?
Okay, so I'll take that up since I have worked my career across. I mean, throughout my entire employee life, I had worked in B2B, and after I started my company, I always wanted to work in B2C and possibly be more closer to the end users, and hence I started a B2C company. Right now, the use of technology it's vastly different from B2B to B2C. Wherein in B2C, the value proposition has to be extremely simple. Most companies will not buy your product because they know someone. Most companies will buy your product because this solves a real pain point. In B2B, you may be able to sell or get a few marquee customers, maybe because of the designation of the sales guy, or maybe because of some fancy technology that you are using. We all know the fancy terms, right? That you are using, and that the other company wants to be associated with using something like that. But in B2C, it's a lot more simple, and it's a lot more simple and a lot more complex also at the same point. And the product would have to stand on its own, and the promise would have to stand on its own. You have to keep things extremely simple. You have to keep things extremely customer oriented. for you to be able to deliver the promise to the customer?
Yeah, so from my perspective on product development, when you are looking at a B2B or a B2C product, right? So in a B2B, you have someone who is actually facing a problem, and then you are solving that problem of that customer, right? So in a B2B, what you can say is you know exactly what is the problem with the organization is going through, what is that they are looking at, and then you have exactly the questions now. You have exactly what they want, right? And then you can see whether how can you build the product in a B2B setup, right? But when you come to a B2C example, right, you just have initially that set of customers or that survey which you have done, right? It always is like very difficult to understand what our product is kind of going to get evolved, right? I mean, coming from just an example of Waterwala to DrinkPrime itself, right? So we started Waterwala as an app, understanding, trying to give water cans, but suddenly understanding the customers closer, sharpening out our proposition, nailing it down, detail, we ended up becoming DrinkPrime. So in a B2C segment, you first start with something and then start understanding the customers, understanding the need, and sharpen your pencil more and more, which is very different from B2B segment. Right? In B2C also, there is no someone who is going to handhold the consumer.
Absolutely.
It's always the technology or the marketing, the product has to handhold the customer himself. In a B2B, I can send a sales guy who will sit and teach the customer how to do. But in a B2C, you don't have that luxury, right? You just can know the customer maybe on a phone call or a maximum a video call, right? Apart from that, you will not know. And how much simple you can make, how much sharp you can make, and how much big the market you can target, right? That's where the whole development and using of technology in B2B and B2C completely differentiates.
Absolutely. I think you're right about covered it, both of you, through that. So now coming to one question, right? The COVID bit of it. So how was that for you? Given that water is something, see, I can stop going out to get groceries if somebody is going to deliver it to me. I can stop going to office because it is it's work from home right now. But I need water, right? And I need water even during the lockdown when I cannot step out. So how important or what did you do during those times to continue to give users the service, because you cannot not have water, right? That's as simple as
Yeah.
that. You can't not drink water anymore. So how did that work out?
So COVID has been new for all of us, right? When it was announced, none of us could even imagine. I mean, I'm sure most of us have never seen a mask, let alone wear a mask from years together. Now masks would be compulsory. Everyone would be speaking to each other. Fireside chats would happen over Zoom. None of it was ever heard of. Now, but COVID changed a lot of industries in a lot of different ways. For us, especially when the when the lockdown was announced, the first thing that you rightly pointed out, we were worried about is how are we going to live up to our promise? Because
Exactly.
the purifiers would need service, the customers have not chosen brand A, brand B, even though they had all the options, but have gone ahead to trust a young startup like DrinkPrime. How is it that we are going to live up to the promise? On the second hand, we also had hundreds of partners, the DrinkPrime partners who go to people's homes to service their units and stuff. How are we going to ensure their health and safety? So both of these become very critical pieces for us to be able to manage at the same point in time. So operationally, as soon as the lockdown was announced, I personally was there in commissioner's office at about till about 11:30 p.m. that day to get special passes for our team to be able to, so that they are not stopped by police during the lockdown periods.
Exactly.
Second thing is we were again coming back to the values of the company. We were again very open and transparent with our users, saying that hey, if you have someone who is infected at your home in COVID, please do not invite us to your home. Please do take appropriate measures. And even if and also at the same point in time, we took our partners and sort of implemented a lot of health and safety protocols, like how to wear masks, giving them disposable kits, possibly giving them disposable hand sanitizers, and multiple things around that. So, and these are some of the things that we did, and very proud to say now that during the first lockdown and maybe during the second lockdown also, during the first lockdown, for sure, we were the only brand who were operational, water purifier brand who were operational in Bangalore, especially. And during the second lockdown, we were one of the few handful brands who were operational, who were able to deliver the promise of saving water to the users.
And COVID also got in a couple of challenges as well as advantages, right? One of the advantage which COVID got us is people started getting scared of water cans. I mean, because it is kept outside the room. I mean, I don't understand because you don't know what will happen if you get COVID also, right? That was the situation, or that was the fear which everyone was having. And in that point of time, we got people coming to DrinkPrime, like so many people kind of automatically finding us online and started subscribing to us, right? We did not, I would say, the first lockdown we didn't even spend money to acquire customers. We were just getting customers left, right, and center in the organic things. Please give us a water purifier, right? But problem what happened with is, like most of the industries, the supply chain got completely broken. The point is, there was some point of time where we had 2,000 customers waiting for water purifier, and we had 100 water purifiers in our product. Because the point is, one of our OEMs is in Pune and some in Delhi, interstate transportation restrictions and they lockdowns and like whatnot, and some raw material have to come from China, borders shut down, lot of things happened. But thing is, first lockdown we faced a couple of issues with the supply chain, but second lockdown we have built a strong team. I mean, just once we came out of the first lockdown, we built a very strong team and started diversifying the whole supply chain. Right? Like for example, what if Pune goes down? Can I get the product from another state or something? Right? So now I would say we have supply chain across India. Right? So any city, any state, if something closed down, we have another route where we can get that. Right? So these were the challenges in the first lockdown, which could kind of overcome in the second lockdown. To be frank, for DrinkPrime, second lockdown was not a challenge because we were completely ready. Not from the technician side point of view, not from the supply chain, not from the demand. It was just like another day for us in DrinkPrime.
That's really nice to hear. Now coming to one of the last questions, right? So where do you see yourself as a business in the next couple of years, maybe 3 years? So what is that point where you want DrinkPrime to be at?
Right. So coming to the starting point, why did we start DrinkPrime? Right. So the thing is, it was always about solving a critical problem for everyone. Right. I mean, if you see the vision of the company is clean, safe, and healthy water for everyone. Right. So we don't call ourselves as a water purifier company. We call ourselves as a drinking water company. Right. So a product. A water purifier currently is just one of the products which we own, and there will be so many other products which will not be a water purifier also, because our promise to a customer is we will give you water at an affordable cost, right? So in that pursuit, in that direction, or where we see at least from the next 3 years is we really want to support at least 1 million homes across the top 20 cities, right? So that's the first target. I would say it's a milestone, I would say, right? So India, if you see, close to 65% of the diseases are waterborne diseases. Everything happening, right? So first milestone, the checkpoint which we want to reach is 1 million households, right? Where we can kind of support 1 million houses with pay as we go model, where people only pay for water they consume at the water, right? That's how, and also the North Star metric for our company is how can I reduce the waterborne diseases in India. So that's the overall, the bigger vision and the bigger mission, that how do we achieve to that point, right? So this is how I would say the checkpoints, and we will be moving ahead in that direction.
So one of the best things about having a big, audacious vision is the kind of people that we attract. I mean, the kind of people that work for us, we would be happy reporting to them in any other company that we work for, right? So that's sort of extremely grateful for that. And when we ask these guys, right, I mean, all of it comes from the vision that, hey, you are trying to solve this massive problem which I personally face, and I know a lot of people and face, and this will change the landscape if you are successful of the country that we live in and make a lot of people's lives better. So, hey, let me lend my helping hand to solve this problem. So this is some of the beauty of, these are some of the advantages of working in a startup, which and my advice would be anyone who wants to start something or tackle some of the bigger problems. It is very easy to go after easier fruits, but if you tackle something large and meaningful, then when it gets solved, the effects will always be compounding in nature.
Absolutely. I was just about to ask you both to sort of end the conversation with a little more. Um, what now? If you were meeting yourselves right from 5 years ago or 6 years ago, what would be the thing that you would tell a young founder like yourselves, like going back to that time, thinking about the technology that you have right now? So when you started versus where we are right now, things have changed. Things have become much easier than when you started off. So what do you have as just some pointers for a new beginner? So very in maybe a few liners, both of you, from your own backgrounds and from your journeys in DrinkPrime and otherwise, please give us a few things so that we can close after that.
Yeah. So one thing on what to make, right? So first thing, what I would say is most of the founders whom I met, and I mean the founders who want to start up, right? So they always overthink about the product, right? I mean, they think that okay, the product has to be like that, the product has to be like that, and then they spend months and sometimes even years to kind of build the product, right? But they never ask saying that, is this product the customer need? Right? So is it going to be the product market fit? So one thing which I always told whoever came to me is make something which is working, which is called an MVP, most viable product. Just go into the market and then start understanding this, right? That is one thing which I say, don't waste too much time on product, because it could happen that once you go into the market, the complete product changes and you have to do something else, just like our example of Muthyala and DrinkPrime, right? So we started thinking that this is it, but it is something else different. And the second aspect which I say is, whatever you know, keep it at the last. Always as a founder, be behind something which you don't know. Like for example, in our journey, we know that Manas knows that how to do operations and scales. I know that how to build a product, but we never knew that how to make marketing. So we made a fast product made. Now we both of us started focusing on marketing to understand how do we get the customer, right? Because that was a skill which was missing in our whole business, right? So start deprioritizing what you know first, because you can solve that at any point of time when when you are back, right? Like for example, if for me a tech problem comes, I know that I at least can figure out how to solve the problem, but I don't know the problems like finance and marketing. First put focus on that and try to see, because company is not just a product or it's not just thing, right? It's a organization where you need to have everything in place. There should be a finance engine, there should be an operations engine, there should be a marketing engine, there should be product. Everything has to be taken care. You cannot be saying that I'll only do this. So that's where you should have a holistic picture.
Yeah. For me, a couple of quick bits, right? During the early stages of a startup, almost every founder that I've spoken to have been through a phase where it is them against the world. Everyone that they know would start slowly starting to doubt their decisions. Everyone would sort of say, "What are you doing with your life?" And that phase will come. So my advice would be, keep your self belief at the top. You know more than you think you know. There is a reason why you are doing it. If your heart says to do something, then I would say just do it. You will not get all of the decisions right, but that's the beauty of the journey. You will live to take decisions, better decisions another day if you keep on taking decisions. If you hesitate and if you have self doubt, that will not let you take decisions, and that will be the end of it. And yeah, and the second one that I would say is, like Vijay mentioned earlier, be extremely close to the problem, be extremely passionate about the problem and extremely dispassionate about the solution. Only when you are extremely passionate about the problem, only then you will be able to evolve to a solution which actually works. If you are passionate to the solution, which I see most early founders who come from large established environments are, right? They are extremely passionate to their solution and stuff. That is when they would lose their way in between in the way to find product market fit.
Absolutely. I think this was a fun conversation. I think we covered right about everything from your journey to how a business should go about, right? Like especially for young entrepreneurs, and we also covered how you and hopefully more companies that are out there using technology will be able to revolutionize industries. I hope everyone had as much fun as I did. I know a lot of people have been following us from the beginning. Thank you so much, Manas and Vijay. This was really great, and I did not anticipate such a good conversation. So, thank you so much for helping me take this conversation there. If anybody wants to check out DrinkPrime, you should definitely look it up. You can reach out to both of them on LinkedIn or elsewhere, and I think you'll be able to reach out to and get more information about that. Nothing else from any of us. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Manas and Vijay, once again. This was again a very good conversation. So if you have anything else to end this with, we will do that, or else we will be going ahead and closing the conversation.
Thank you so much, Mansa, for giving this opportunity. It was glad to have meeting so many people and then sharing our story. Thanks.
Thank you, Mansa. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I would like to say, to especially to our subscribers and people who are looking to get DrinkPrime, right? Do give us a try and drink safe, DrinkPrime.
Thank you so much.